Okay, let's see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Give me a okay. Let's see if you can hear me now. No? I hear something. Okay. Testing. No? Yep. Okay, I hear now. Yes. Okay. So let's get started again. This is August 12th, 2026. It is 10:38 p.m. So we're still early, even with my sound problem. I was so excited earlier, I guess. And we are on day 2,201 days since our son, Richard Halliday, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, was forcibly removed from his barracks room and taken down to the arms room, and his life was taken from him, and his body then was stolen off of base and trafficked to Mexico for disposal. Why would they do something like that? Well, it was a code red. It was a code red because he had reported trafficking. He had reported child sexual exploitation. Um, you know, that's uh, that is a story, let me tell you. That is a story. The CPS reports, those are a story. And then also, um, at the Walmart mass shooting. We knew for a long time now that he was reporting um, on the military involvement in the Walmart mass shooting. And now, with more evidence coming out, it really indicates that he was reporting before the Walmart mass shooting, on the planning of the Walmart mass shooting, before a shot even rang out. So, more and more information is being released to us. We have been blocked in many different ways, and harassed and threatened, and all of that. But we have connections in El Paso. I was born at White Sands. The long history there, just the dynamics of the border is really important for people to understand, because many people do not know about the Mormon polygamist being kicked out of the United States and settling right across the border in Mexico, and that state is called Chihuahua. It's right across the border. These are dual citizens. This was like in the late 1890s, early 1900s. They've been there a long time. They're very established in Chihuahua, and they are absolutely in alliance with, not, I wouldn't say 100% of them, but a huge chunk of them. They're called the Mormon Mafia. I didn't give them that name. Okay, I did not give them that name. I was always calling them the Mormon faction. But now, with the court cases that um, have been released to us, and or pointed out to us, that we've read, they have a history. They have a history in these court cases, and they're called the Mormon Mafia. And so, and I know others have used that in the past, but seeing it documented like that, I feel like that uh, is really official, right? That they are a Mormon mafia in alliance with the cartels. And the cartels, you really can't call them cartels anymore. The Sinaloa, the Juarez, the CJNG, you have to call them terroristic organizations. You have to call them specially designated terroristic organizations, because that's what they are. And with the Mormon mafia in alliance with them, then they are aiding and abetting, or they're part of them. And they make up, cross the border over all this time, especially in the early 1990s when Jeffrey Epstein came to the scene. Jeffrey Epstein came to the scene in New Mexico, right on the north callout of White Sands Missile Range. And I've posted up many maps, and I think it's very, very helpful to know that, this was the place that Jeffrey Epstein wanted to spend a lot of money and set up shop, a big part of his pipeline that would also include Little St. James. So, so this is absolutely Zorro Ranch is there right beside Zorro Ranch. William Sanders Ranch, also right beside on the other side, it, by uh, the other side of Zorro Ranch is Cesar Duarte's several ranches. And of course, the police were on the payroll. Uh, but it's really important to understand the dynamics because of the German dynamics there in the area, the German scientists that I knew about as a kid because I was born at White Sands Missile Range, where the Germans were stationed when it was called White Sands Proving Ground in Operation Paperclip. They brought the Germans over in 1945, and they didn't leave until I think it was 2023, just recently. So they have been there for a long time, and Jeffrey Epstein hired as this the develop. I don't want to say these were specifically German scientists, but because of those labs there and he said in his interview that the funding had dried up for the labs, that he took over the labs and in Santa Fe, and of course uh, Obama liked Santa Fe a lot, and so did Oprah Winfrey. And of course, they helped Beto O'Rourke, who is the son in law of William Sanders. And William Sanders is very important because he teamed up with uh, Paul Foster with Western Refinery. And because right there, not only do you have this White Sands Missile Range, where you have restricted airspace, that you can bring a plane right into your own personal landing strip, which Jeffrey Epstein did have. That makes it very, very handy. And then to have compromised military watch that airspace just in case, right? Just in case there's a whistleblower out there, right? Someone that wants to do their job and protect the nation. Um, so you have that dynamic, but you have the premium basin, right? Which is the largest oil field, I believe, in the United States. The largest oil field. I mean, of course, it's in Texas, right? Most of it, I mean, it's New Mexico, most of it's in Texas. And of course, this is huge. And with William Sanders being heavily invested in energy and the storage of energy, okay, because he has history with Chihuahua. His grandfather was in Chihuahua. I think his grandfather got kicked out of Chihuahua, if I'm right. This is Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law's grandfather, right? Um, and so they have a history with Chihuahua, and I think, or he went back over there, his father, or you know, I the story is they are connected there, even if it was like for corn oil or corn seed oil or whatever. And they were in heavily invested in energy. And that, of course, went to the black gold, the oil, the crude oil. And so he's been with Western Refinery. And Western Refinery got in some trouble because they were buying oil from or fuel from cartel that was stolen from Pemex, which is the Mexican owned um, and when I say Mexican, the Mexican people owned oil, and they've been stealing a lot from the Mexican people. They've been stealing a lot of oil from the Mexican people. And we found that out with the Jensens that they were stealing a lot of oil from the Mexican people, from the Pemex and the Huachical fiscal. So, and that, if you don't know about the Jensens, they were just recently indicted for massive fuel theft, that they call the Huachical fiscal. So, all of this is going on. And of course, Paul Foster had to sell Western Refinery, but he didn't sell it. He kind of like rebranded it again. He sold it to Endeavor, and Endeavor sold it to Marathon, and then he bought the controlling stock. So, he has a lot of say so with Marathon. And this is their like territory that they have built up for decades. And they, of course, operate within this Mormon mafia, the Mexican cartel, the whole New Mexico German scientist kind of development on that. And then, of course, the military, the drones, all the military contracts, and all of the deception and the fraud, right? Because this was big, big money. And that big fraud, this big opportunity of fuel theft, which hurts so many people, needed to be protected by guns. Well, you have the base there, and then you have Fast and Furious, and you have Iran Contra, and that weapons are being stolen from Fort Bliss. That weapons are being stolen from other bases, and because and then you have the development of the intelligence agencies that have been compromised. And we know that there was many agents in the intelligence community, be it CIA, FBI, ATF, DEA, CBP, DHS, and even DPS, the Texas Rangers, were on a secret payroll there in Chihuahua, Mexico, conducting unauthorized operations, even kidnappings. And that's not me saying that. That is Maru Campos, the governor of Chihuahua, saying that on live TV, that that's exactly they were on it. She has a secret payroll, and they're in the Fiscalia, and they have even offices. They have offices, and that they could carry their M4s, their automatic rifles that are illegal in Mexico, but they could carry them in Chihuahua in the Fiscalia. Um, their M4s around. And then, of course, we know with the recent deaths of the two CIA agents that the weapon was switched out, and there was a lot of finagling, and of course, it got caught. And then Attorney General Cesar Hargi had to resign. It was so bad, and it has to be really bad for one of them to resign. So, and now Maru Campos is being investigated for treason. So, so this is the dynamics of the border, and it got into, of course, human trafficking and child trafficking, especially to just flood to divert attention from the oil theft. You just flood the border, and get other problems, right? You get other problems, and you have the human trafficking, and you have the unaccompanied children, and children trafficked through Fort Bliss. half a million of them just recently in 2021 to 2023. And President Trump has been reporting on how many that they have found because they're looking for them. But we know through our investigation and testimonies that through that camp, the many it was so bad, y'all. It was so, so bad. And of course, on base, if that's like an unaccompanied minor's disaster, humanitarian disaster, then on base in the barracks, where it's supposed to have all these regulations and oversight of our volunteer soldiers, we had a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks for 4 months being pimped out. We had it just flush with illegal weapons. We That is on record. That is on record, even with health and welfare checks. And because unregistered weapons were used by military to shoot and kill people during this time, we know that there was so many drugs because we've had terrible overdose deaths in the barracks. And we, have reports in the health and welfare that there was two dogs. One dog was even dead in the barracks. Um, and we know that they were having parties, that the alcohol abuse was just out of control, that they were even having grog parties during field operations out of a CLIT, which is a transport storage unit that they kind of like turned into a bar, I guess, turned into a bar, and they were drinking grog, and 11 of our service members ended up in the hospital because they drank antifreeze. It was just out of control. We know because of the defector from Fort Bliss over into Russia. He went from Fort Bliss to Ukraine to Russia, and he gave an interview, and he said when he was at Fort Bliss for 2 years, he stayed drunk, absolutely stayed drunk, out of control, no discipline at all. And we know from our son, he just said it was so bad. And we know that they were airdropping porn, child porn. And we know that Leilani Hart, in her letter, and Leilani Hart is the mother of Richard's platoon leader, that they were in possession of child porn. Her family was, and facilitated the worst type of crimes against children. Um, we know that because of her sworn affidavit, her sworn confession, and of course, that her son Richard's platoon leader Dallas Hart was engaged in a unnatural relationship with his father and his brothers, and so the whole sex cult thing, and there, of course, there's this common denominator that they're Mormon mafia, and that they're involved in mortuary operations. So if you wonder how they brought Richard off of base, and you don't have to wonder anymore. They were infiltrated. The cartel with the Mormon mafia were infiltrated, even in our mortuary operations, which had contracts with Purchase Funeral Homes. Group of Purchase is now totally connected to a funeral home, crematorium just across the border that was raided recently, about a year ago, well, more than a year ago, that had over 400 bodies in rat infested, filthy, unspeakable conditions. Um, and they were flesh peddling and giving families, urns full of construction dust or animal dust, or, you know, and charging them for cremation. So uh, and this is a funeral fraud that is connected to other funeral frauds that they. Um, it's kind of like a terroristic organization, right? A terroristic organization. And we know that CJNG is really under the microscope. They are a very, very violent terroristic organization, cartel, flesh eating uh, in a very bad, very bad way. Not, yeah. And I don't know how much I can say on here because it's so bad, but they are absolutely embedded in El Paso, and they are in alliance with Alejandro de la Vega Foster, the El Paso cartel operative. That's a double agent on both sides of the border, and a fuel theft because her husband, Paul Foster, and even in a book that I even posted up the cover of the book today, talks about this. This is not something that I just guessed at or pulled out of the air. This is all documented from court cases and verified articles and books, and uh, you know, putting everything together that this is the environment that Richard was in. This is what he was whistleblowing on, and it it got out of it. Just the crime was so bad that when President Trump came in during his first administration and said, I want to build a wall, right? I want to build a wall at the southern border. They went all out crazy. They went all out crazy. And they absolutely orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting. Because Richard was reporting, they needed a diversion. Richard was the whistleblower for really for President Trump's policies to shut down the border. He gave them his reports, gave them legitimacy in shutting down the border and building the wall. And but things, there was you're talking about a lot of money and drug pros, illegal drug proceeds, and I'm not even getting into the gambling, into the money laundering, because there's gambling, money laundering, and everything. And this affects so many people's jobs because they're really part of a criminal organization. And because, the development of the whole thing, even people that wanted to just be honest business people that were from El Paso could easily get caught up in this, and so that's why we have been very patient because and letting President Trump's administration arrest the Jensens, right? And we never expected that. And that's connected to Carlsbad. That's connected to Clovis. And Clovis, New Mexico, Carlsbad, New Mexico, that made us like, okay, what's going on there? Oh, that is the premium basin. That is the rail cars, how to transport all of this stolen fuel and all the trafficking, um, um, whatever that they were trafficking. And so, to do all of this, you have to use those proceeds or the illicit gains, some of those illicit gains, to fund the politicians, to fund government workers, right? To fund the police. You're making a lot of money. They need money because these individuals, they also do a lot of bonds, so the taxes are high because they want to do their little projects, right? They want to do their projects, And so they create a atmosphere of high taxes with their, they're not satisfied in just the illicit funds from all their trafficking, right? They do these bonds and want tax money because they want to launder, they want to clean all of that money, and so the government contracts and everything make it really very expensive to live in El Paso. And so if you're a police officer or sheriff or in the DA's office, you want to control the DA's office. If you're making, if you're a El Mayo, or if you're Alejandro de la Vega Foster, or, you want to control who is investigating, who is prosecuting. You want to control the judges, like Judge Sam Medrano and his wife Bernadette Medrano, and you want them to get control of the entire courthouse with being able to tamper with the assignment wheel that can make and break judges and lawyers careers, and you don't go through all of that law school and everything to get there to have your career destroyed. And so they had real leverage in the courthouse. But that wasn't enough for Sam Medrano with the Walmart mass shooting, because they were very well, explain Mayella, the Mayella Crucius, right? Connection. I mean, that's just one of the connections with that. And so they needed extra police power to control investigations and whistleblowers and judges and any kind of lawyer that wanted to become a whistleblower, right? And so he combined the bailiffs illegally because he's a judicial officer, not executive. And the executive branch of the government is who creates police departments, police agencies, not a judge, not the judicial. It's not constitutional. But he did it anyway. He's lawless. He's the most corrupt judge in El Paso history. And so he combined the bailiffs together to make a police force right there inside of the courthouse. And so with his wife having power over the assignment wheel, and him having all the bailiffs report through the council of judges to him, right? To him, he had an illegal police force inside the courthouse. So he had his thumb on every judge, on every attorney, on every witness, on every whistleblower, on every investigation. And he can make and break you. He can make and break you. And this is how he had control over the courthouse. And during the Walmart mass shooting, he appointed Justin Underwood to be an ad litem in the case to attack whistleblowers, right? To be his attack dog within the Walmart mass shooting case, because you couldn't really, there was no he wasn't appointed to any child that needed some help, that didn't have parents or whatever. It was a very illegal appointment. And all of what Justin Underwood then did, breaking the gag order, and Judge Medrano didn't care, because that wasn't why he was there. He could do whatever he wanted as long as he was controlling the stopping the truth from getting out, right? Stopping the truth. So if that meant walking over whistleblowers, destroying people's lives that were whistleblowers, or had information about multiple shooters, or had information about the illegal fraudulent distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims funds, which was over 12 million, that was being investigated. If you were Yvonne Rosales, you were in real trouble, because she was investigating that, and that's why they went after her. And of course, the whistleblower in our son's case, Judge Roger Rodriguez, they went after him because he was the whistleblower in our son's case. And so they would just submit tampered evidence like audio recordings into the court case. They would harass, they would threaten, they would scheme. Look at what they did to the duly elected first Hispanic female as the DA. Look at what they did to her. It was just crazy. And so go after somebody for a gag order while you're reaching out to press, because that's what Justin Underwood did with El Paso Inc. He reached out to press, breaking the gag order wide open, but no one said a word to him because he was one of the fraudulent four. Um, and of course, a fraudulent four, in today's live stream is Justin Underwood, is Bill Hicks, is Bob Moore, and is John Briggs. And they were the institutional for that really covered up our son's case, and of course the Mayela Crucius connection, stopped any kind of information, any whistleblowers, any witnesses to come forward. Um, uh, just really did a lot of damage. It was because of them that there wasn't a death penalty for Patrick Crucius, because he was absolutely there. He absolutely participated in that madness. 23 people killed. Was it orchestrated? Yes. Was it bloody? Yes. Okay. Was he part of it? Yes. Were there others that were part of it? Yes. Was the military part of the orchestration and also engaged in it? Yes. Because the evidence says so, not because I say so, not because I don't want it to be that way, but that's the truth. And the evidence, you can't hold it back, right? You can't hold the truth back. The evidence says so, and the witnesses, the evidence itself, the purchase, controlling the bodies of the Walmart mass shooting, and of course of Plenitude Crematorium too. Um, but controlling the bodies of the Walmart mass shooting, and people might not know this, that Purchase is the one right now holding the bodies from Plenitude Crematorium. They're the ones holding the evidence of their wrongdoing. I mean, they're part of the whole funeral fraud, and they're holding the evidence that can absolutely indict them. Um, and they controlled the bodies of the Walmart mass shooting. And you know, and it's fraudulent because um, the the death certificate, I can say death certificate of one of the victims was tampered with. The timestamp is not right, and uh, it's evident that the whole thing was handled not the way it was supposed to, that they were up to no good. And the evidence declares that. And I want to be very careful because I want to be very mindful of the victims themselves. So the evidence absolutely shows that Bill Hicks is the general counsel, the counsel for Purchase, and he did not reveal that uh, when he was appointed by Governor Abbott to, after he schemed with Justin Underwood and Bob Moore to attack a duly elected DA and have her removed, and then during a recess appointment, bring in Purchase's attorney, right? Purchase's attorney counsel to be the DA that's supposed to be investigating and prosecuting the Walmart mass shooting, when the death certificates that has Salvador Purchase's name on it um, is up to no good, is up to no good. And that's all coming out because the stealing of our son's body, It was just that was so hard how could that happen off of a military base, right? Off of a military base, how could that happen? And so, when you understand the funeral fraud and the mortuary operations fraud and how Solomon Anusa is the cousin of Leilani Hart, that's the mother of Richard's platoon leader, and his brother is a prime suspect along with Dallas Hart and Leilani Hart in the taking of our son's life. And then the harassers and everything were all like, why do they all work for funeral homes and stuff, right? And mortuary operations, and then they're all part of the Mormon mafia. Why is this? It was took us a while to put all this together. But if you're doing major fuel theft, and we're talking about Texas loses $1 billion a year in just tax money from the fuel theft. And so a lot of the Iran stuff with the gambling, the online gambling, and the digital currency, and all of that is part of this watchical fiscal um, not fraudulent paperwork saying to that this is not really oil, this is just like byproducts, this is dirty fuel or whatever, and then they don't have to pay taxes, you see. So a lot of this fuel theft is even on avoiding taxes. And so, and if the government is saying that Texas loses about $1 billion a year, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Just on the fuel theft, it's more than that because they're really being very, very careful with their investigations. So they don't want to um, say uh, they're erring on a caution. Well, how do you say that, right? They're being very cautious on their numbers. So this is the environment that Richard was in, and here he's coming from, Ireland, and he's seeing all of this fraud and the deception and the theft and the sex cult and the out of hand drinking um and the drugs and 14-year-old girl living in the barracks and the worst type of crimes against women in the barracks against our female service members um you know and he reported it. He's absolutely collected he wanted to be CID. And so our distinguished honor graduate son, number one in basic training, right? He started collecting evidence and reporting it. And so he was in communication with all of it, right? The FBI and IG and 911 even called, and the police and CID and Houston and the federal government. He was in communication with all of them and reporting CPS, the Child Protective Services. And that's all documented. That's not me. That's they had to document that, and they just really wanted to smear him and cover that up because he really exposes the whole shebang. He exposes the whole shebang. And so they have gone like crazy. And I don't even know how much money they've spent with the cover up and trying to keep we did cease and desist, and we've been, let me tell you, we have been very active fighting back and investigating in the most legal way that we know how to do it. And, uh, and we've been very successful, but they still have the fake and very defamatory articles out there. Um, that is just a big bunch of lies, a big bunch of lies, because, of course, Bob Moore, these fraudulent four, their job is to obstruct justice, right? Their job is to control a narrative that suits the cartel terrorist networks that are engaged in these huge criminal activities. That's their job. That was John Briggs's job. That was Bill Hicks's job. Absolutely was to um, totally botch the Walmart case, right? That was his job, to botch it. And so was John Briggs. And so was Justin Underwood. And Justin Underwood, he sits on a commission or a committee or um yeah, for El Paso. I wouldn't want him, and his wife too, determines what happens to certain things, property and taxes and this. He does anyway. Um, Part of the group he's on, and that's crazy because he's part of the fraudulent four that absolutely covered up the Mayella Crucius. I mean, that just that fact alone, um, uh, they should absolutely all be arrested for, because Patrick Crucius didn't get the death penalty, and the others didn't get held accountable for what they did to the 23 and the 22, and what they did to the community. And what about the $12 million that were fraudulently distributed? That was distributed. It was West Star Bank that held the $12 million. This is the West Star Bank that is, part of this fuel uh, network that's there, with Paul Foster, and then all the military contracts, Woody Hunt. This is this Mormon Mafia, the El Paso Community Foundation, which is under investigation for money laundering, well, accused of money laundering. And of course, they're the ones that are the parent company of El Paso Matters. So they want to go into UTEP now, right? They want to have KTEP. They're trying to get control of KTEP, and, how can they do that when they're under federal investigation or litigation, right? Federal litigation. Um, and and up to no good. So that would implicate UTEP. And so much of this, what's going on in this investigation and litigation. So it is, uh, I hope if you have any questions, um, to tie that together, how those fraudulent four, Bill Hicks and Bob Moore and John Briggs and Justin Underwood, and of course there's more, but those four, um, how they just absolutely are criminal. Criminal. Their actions are so criminal in what they've done. And that, and I'll put it out more. I already put out a lot of Justin Underwood, a lot of Bill Hicks, a lot of Bob Moore, and John Briggs is just as criminal. So, it, I hope that that explains how this could happen to Richard, that they would, order, block his reports, um, deny his transfer requests, order a code red, forcibly remove him from his barracks room, take him down to a secure location that was soundproof, and take his life, and then take his body and then the evidence indicates organ harvesting, because they were also involved in organ harvesting, all this body stuff, body part selling and everything like that, the flesh peddling. Um, Also with the babies, right? The targeting of pregnant women. Uh, you know, i- to take our son, um, indications that, with the three autopsy reports, that they were cashing in, on him, uh, in the military, in the private sector, and then in Mexico. Um, and of course, we know that the medical examiner and the office of the medical examiner, and also the county clerk, Delia Briones, that they're all very compromised, that they're very criminal, that the medical examiner is not even qualified. He's not even qualified. He's not even a citizen. Um, uh, you know, um, and here he is, taking a $500,000 a year from taxpayers to be a criminal, and of course he's totally tied to the cartel. And so, to do this funeral, fraud, you have to have um, the medical examiner in your back pocket, and also you have to have the clerk, right? This is where Delia Briones comes in. This is where Bernadette Medrano comes in, because it was Bernadette Medrano's office that Justin Underwood took his illegal subpoenas to get stamped and approved, and they were illegal and unlawful. And she stamped them, right? And well, her office stamped them. The district that office, clerk's office, stamped them, and the death certificates and all of that is Delia Briones, right? So, how many fraudulent death certificates um, have been stamped? Uh, so, yeah, we have the one death certificate, and um, it's totally botched. So, this is really important for everyone to know, because who's paying high fuel prices, whose family members, their girls are at risk, their children are at risk, they've lost loved ones to drugs, uh, you know and then you're given fake ashes when someone passes away. You can't even trust the funeral, that lie, that do false advertising, because they say, "Oh, we're here for dignity," and all that, and here they are flesh peddling and giving fake ashes and outsourcing cremations to cartel tied entity that's going to sell off body parts or something. Yeah, it is. And I see, let me go through some of these. Samantha Decker, thank you. Yeah, okay, I've got my sound now. Um, Police and Juarez on the payroll. Yes, and they're on that secret payroll, right? And we know that through, I wanted to talk about that, because remember when the the cartel leader for the tunnels, I'm trying to remember what his name is, but his guards, when they got killed, remember they got shot down, I think three of them did. The two guards police, were police. So, they were guarding the cartel. And we know that through El Mencho, who he had on his payroll. These were compromised officials and police and everything. And this is what President Trump is really addressing, in amazing way, in a very fast way. Don't forget that Mexico just made a trading deal with the EU, and they're bringing in jobs, legitimate jobs, to replace, this criminal economy. We don't want a criminal economy that relies on making drugs that kill people, that relies on stealing fuel and, um, you know, uh, ruling over the border or the roads or the ports, right? Because CJNG rules over the ports, and you have to pay them, and then they rule over the roads, because we know that in the last article about the fuel theft going over, and the Jensens had to pay them what, over $45 million for the ports and the roads, using those roads. And then of course we have the rail cars, who's getting, cartel money for that. And so that, arresting these leaders, um, and putting in legitimate overseers, legitimate businesses, factories, trade deals, things like that, uh, because people have to work. They have to work. They have to eat. They have bills to pay. And so it's not as easy as just, oh, let's go arrest this person, right? And then if they're controlling, if they have control over the fuel, right? Um, if you need their refinery, you can't just take it down, because people need fuel, otherwise they die. So, what President Trump has done is very skillful. Um, we've been watching it very, very careful for years, what he's been doing, and very strategic, and bringing back Mexican sovereignty is bringing back American sovereignty, giving power to the people again. And I can tell you with our case that that's exactly what's happening, because the number of legal cases, because of his work, and I believe some of our work too, that they have been able to feel comfortable enough, not fear so much retaliation, that they have now brought out their own lawsuits. And so this is a really good thing, because more whistleblowers are coming out, more witnesses are coming out, more lawsuits are coming out, so more truth is coming out. And so there is, a real change happening. Is it a done deal yet? It's not yet. It's not a done deal yet. And we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So we have to do our part too, right? We have to do our part. So um, it is really, um, and my part in all of this is being the voice for our son, online every day, and to all the investigations, the information. And there's so much, I don't even do it justice to put that out there, so that the people can have truth, instead of these, and I like to use AI too, just as much as another, but I try not to use it so much. I try to be more, just do my own work, um, with the evidence, and collage things together. I like to do the collage things together, that people see the puzzle pieces, right? They see how everything fits together, and with the maps, and so that you can understand what is the dynamics of what's going on with the border, that they have tried to divide us. They've tried to divide our beautiful countries, and really it is people with very bad intentions using our government agencies, because it was Maru Campos, it was the secret payroll in the Fiscalia. It was American intelligence agencies going on to that payroll that was charging Chihuahuan people, right? So it was bad actors that were exploiting not only the United States, but also Mexico, and not only the United States government positions, universities, ports, um, restaurants, everything that the CJNG are very dug in to El Paso, very dug in and very dug into Chihuahua. And you see that in the sports, you see that in stadiums, you see that in universities, you see that where Alejandra de la Vega Foster, she's like a key, right? She's the double agent, she's the El Paso cartel operative that hosted the CJNG in her own home to Governor Abbott, because they paid off these politicians and government officials and things like that, so that they could do their crime. And with that laundered money, then they bought stuff. They bought big stuff, and it became part of our cities, right, and our states, and they're up to no good, and they're up to no good, and um, yeah, when Julio Cordero got over 40 arrested, right, and now he has lost his life, but when he did that, like he's just such a hero, he's such a hero. um, they went all out with the media, right? Because they had to control whatever was going out in the media. So here we are giving you, this is what I try to do is give you all of these facts. Uh, keep listening, because sometimes it can get confusing. But if you keep listening, it all comes together, and you're like, oh, that's why this is a terroristic organization, an enterprise, right? A theft enterprise, a deception enterprise that have no loyalty to Mexico and no loyalty to the United States. They're just exploiters, right? They just want to exploit and steal and take and deceive and take lives and take lives. Um, and for them taking lives, they try to find a profit even in that. So, yeah, I think that really helps. I know it's a marathon. Escobar. Okay, so Escobar and of course Beto O'Rourke, they're very, very connected. They had the same workers, remember? They have the same workers together. They got caught. They're all into the fraud. And of course, Escobar is the one that brought in Mario Raskin Ortiz, this terrible cartel medical examiner, total criminal. And she's a total criminal for signing his paychecks. And now it's Ricardo Samaniego that signs his paychecks. Yeah, these individuals are up to no good. And, you know, and I don't want you to feel hopeless, because they're so, this has to come out, right? You have to be aware of it. This has been going on for a long time, and we weren't even aware of it, right? And so now we're aware of it. We know what's going on. We can vote better. Please go out there and vote. Um, and really think about your vote. You have to think of it very politically, because that's what they do, very strategically, because that's what they do. So, now you're getting intel that we didn't have before. And so, this is a really positive time to be alive. And, um, this is no time to be bitter or to be sad or let anyone blackpill you, as they call it. This is a time to get your socks on and get your wellies on, as we say in Ireland. Uh, you know, put your boots on in Texas, right? Put your boots on, put your hat on, and put some gloves on, and we got to get to work. And these elections that are coming up are very important. If you see a crime, you need to report it. You have to put everything on file. You have to put everything on file. They cannot. It cannot move. Justice cannot move unless you give it the fuel, and that fuel is filing your complaints and your witness statements and everything. So that needs to be done, and and God will tell you what you can do. He'll guide you, and we are in really, really very good times because we're in this battle now that we know really what's happening. We really know why and what's happening, and so we're taking huge actions. We are not just going on a keyboard, okay? We're not just going on a keyboard. We're not just going on live streams. We're taking huge actions behind the scenes, and many others are doing that. And of course, now with the new Justice Department and the FBI, of course, there's infiltrators. You see that there's mutiny. You see that there's still leaks and things like that. But it is they're having a lot of wins, and we're really moving forward. And I can tell you, we're in the negotiation for our son's remains. That's huge compared to where we were 3 years ago, right? We have the in the line of duty now. We have the place where his life was taken. We have the place where we believe that they took him and disposed of him. So we're in these vicious negotiations for our son's remains. And there's a good chance that Purchase has his remains. Um, and so, it's and I don't think that is uh gosh, there's so much I can say about Salvador Purchase Jr. So much I can say about him, y'all. Yeah. Um, so that's gonna come out more, but just know that this is where we're at is our son's remains and accountability, and it's very positive. It's looking really good. So keep praying for that, please, for us. I really ask that. We don't um, really don't ask much, but we ask for that. A lot of prayers for our son's remains to be brought home. Full honors. If you haven't signed the petition, please sign the petition for Richard to receive full honors, and then to share, share, share. So thank you so much, and thank you, Annette, and all of you that came on. Yes, marathon oil, exactly. And I saw the I guess it was a meeting that President Trump had with all of the energy people in Marathon. The lady from Marathon was sitting there. Um, that is so interesting to watch if you like body language. If you like to watch body language, go and watch that again. It's on YouTube. And just watch the lady from Marathon. It's very interesting. It tells you a lot, I think. I think it does. So, God bless you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I came on early. Um, and um, and I'm just so glad that everyone was able to join. So please share, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.